people, I would say, often think I'm more okay than I am, or I'm doing better than I am. Like they might think, oh, I couldn't do that. She's so brave. But they don't realize that I'm just as scared as they would be, or I'm finding it just as hard as they would, but I'm still doing it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Go Encourage podcast, where I talk to real people about real life and try to gain insight through their experiences around building courage in their lives. In today's episode, I'm joined by Micaela Hollins, who's going to be coming at us from Australia. She's a senior advisor, works in marketing communications, and is a well-seasoned traveller. So, let's get started. Hello, Micaela. Welcome to Go Encourage.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're on.
Me too.
I want to say that this is the first time I've had an international guest on the podcast.
I feel very privileged. Let's hope it all works.
let's hope it all works. Let's hope the technology works. Can you tell us where you are right now?
I am somewhere called Inverloch in the state of Victoria in Australia, which is about 2 hours from Melbourne on the coast, very near the beach. And yeah, it's beautiful down here. So that's home to me at the moment.
Fantastic. I mean, it's very cold and a little bit rainy here, so a little bit jealous that you have a nice hot beach day over there.
I hate to say it was like over 30 degrees today, which I mean, I didn't get to enjoy because I was at work, but that's fine. But yeah, and it's currently about 23, so hence I'm a little bit summery dressed.
It's a little bit warmer,
even though it's 8:30 in the evening.
Okay, and it is here. It's 9:30 in the morning, so we're going across time zones
during summer. Yep.
Exciting. All right.
Very.
Well, let's get started. I've got some questions. You ready to answer some questions?
Bring it on.
All right, here we go. So, your name is Micaela. Do you know what it means?
It means light of God, and it's Hebrew. And my middle name, Margaret, it's Margaret Rose, but Margaret means pearl. And it was my great aunt's name, who is a very precious person to my mum. So, yeah, a very intentional name, I think, by my mum.
Amazing. That's incredible. Yeah. What a name. That's like, you're literally so precious.
Yeah, it's a good name. I like it.
Have you known that's what it meant growing up?
Yeah, Mum always made me aware of it and talked about it, which was nice. And it was kind of, I had a little name plaque or thing on my wall to say what it meant. And I think, it was important for her that we always knew that she chose it intentionally, which is nice.
Oh, nice. High five, Mum. That's awesome.
Yeah,
love that.
Yeah.
Speaking identity over you from a young age, and you knowing what it was as well. That's key. I think a lot of people don't know what the name means until later on in life, but it sounds like you did all the way through. So, cool. All right. So where are you from? I know you're in Melbourne right now. Well, 2 hours off Melbourne right now, but did you grow up in Melbourne? Where are you from? Can you tell us a bit about your family?
Yeah, I'm from New Zealand. I grew up in Auckland, New Zealand, with my mum, my stepdad, my big brother, and my little sister, and moved to the UK when I was 18, and met you maybe when I was 19 or 20, maybe, which we won't talk about how long ago that was.
Yes, right.
And lived there for 12 years, and then moved to Australia. So I've this is my third country I've lived, which is crazy to think.
Wow.
Which kind of sets us up a bit for the conversation, because a lot of my story is about moving and starting.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's great. Because I was going to say, I could really get into that right now, but okay, it's coming up. We'll wait.
Let's just park it and
we'll park it. All right.
First. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so I was going to ask you, so when you were growing up, was there something you aspired to be? Did you have a particular career goal in mind? So I'm talking maybe, I don't know, before you got into double digits or around about that age.
Yeah, when I was really young, um, I remember wanting to be a hairdresser, and I really loved people's hair, and I would like my uncles had, would have their girlfriends over, and one had really long hair, and I'd be like playing with their hair all day. And then if they let me, I don't think they did let me, but I tried. And then I don't know what it is now. I'm trying to analyze it. I don't know what it. I guess I was a kid and I loved hair. And then I wanted to be an air stewardess, hostess. I feel like the name's changed since then. And yeah, very different. And now definitely wouldn't suit my life or preferences. But those are the kind of early things I remember wanting to be.
Interesting. Oh, air stewardess. That's interesting because there's already travel there as a theme.
Yeah, I think that was definitely linked to travel. And because then when I was a teenager, when I was a bit older, I wanted to be, I really wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be, but specifically, which now is so funny because everyone wants this job because obviously it's a dream job, is to be like a travel show host and go around traveling. And I remember seeing people on TV doing, out somewhere random, hosting a show. And I was like, I really want to do it. And that was kind of most of my teenage years. And I thought I could try and get into broadcasting and everything, but it's competitive and it's hard. And that hasn't happened. But yeah, the traveling thing, I don't know where it came from or when the seed was planted, but it was definitely there around then, I guess, when I wanted to be an air hostess. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you could tell the teenage version of you that you're kind of on a little show right now. And then
I know. When you talked to me about being on the show, I was like, Rix, I've been waiting for someone to be on the podcast. Why hasn't it happened yet?
Why hasn't it happened? It's happening.
I'm very excited.
Okay. All right. So let's, again, not mentioning the number of years, but we'll go a little bit forward in time. And what do you actually do now?
So now I am a senior advisor in marketing and communications for an engineering consultancy, which I really enjoy. It uses my skills, and I have a lot of stakeholder engagement and people relationships, which I really enjoy, and I get to be creative. And yeah, it's been an interesting kind of path of me trying to figure out where I was going and what I was doing. And I didn't go to university straight away when I was 18 and 19, when everyone else goes to university. So I felt like I had a few more extra years of wondering what I was going to do, because I think people in university don't feel that confusion because they just know what they're doing every day for a few years. Whereas from the age of 18 all through my 20s, I was like, what's happening? So I feel like I've landed on my feet in a good way, and I really enjoy what I do, as well as have things outside of work that really keep me going and I'm really passionate about, which I think is super important depending on what you do and your capacity. Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. And you love it?
Yeah.
Your job?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the people I work with, and my company has got great culture and really supportive, and it's a Kiwi company, which, Kiwis are pretty cool. So
keeping strong to your roots there. I like that.
Yeah. Living in Australia but working for a Kiwi company is a good balance of having a bit of both.
Right. And this is my ignorance now in terms of geography, right? How close is New Zealand to where you are right now? Let's say on a plane or something.
Yeah, let's say from Melbourne, then here, it would be about a 4-hour flight.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too bad. Close enough to be able to go back fairly regularly, which is nice.
Okay, that's cool. That's good. All right, so diving a little bit deeper into your personality, on the introvert and extrovert scale, where do you think you sit?
It's hard to say. I would probably say, and if people around me would probably say I'm an extrovert, and I think I am, and I was extremely extroverted as a child. But yeah, as I get older, I definitely love my own company. I get a little bit antsy if I don't spend time alone for a long period. Like I'm just coming off about maybe a week of being with people and out and about and doing things, and I feel like my cup is getting pretty low because I haven't just spent some time with me. So, but I don't know if that means I'm not an extrovert, because I think I still get a lot of energy from people, but it has to be the right people, and it's probably not just being around people for the sake of being around people. I'm intentional and very selective about where and who I spend my time with, and that they're filling my cup. And if they're not, I'd rather be on my own, filling my own cup. So, when I was younger, it was all about filling the time to the absolute nth degree. Like, I was always stretched, and it's a bit of part of my personality is to just go, but I was always kind of trying to pack it in and see as many people in a day that I could. And I was always running around London as a young person, stressed out of my mind because I'd booked too many things in and then couldn't, be present for all of them. So I've learned to manage that and be more selective and prioritize. But yeah, I think I get my energy from both. But I'm quite a outgoing person who really enjoys being around people. And I get energy from that, but I also get a huge amount of fulfillment from, just doing my own thing. I'm very precious about my time. Like, you never get time back. So where I spend it, I'm just, with your salary and your income or your money, generally, like, you're getting money more money will come. Whereas there isn't more time. There's literally the time you've got. So I think, I don't know what it is, but it's something about that's always been a big thing in my life. And I've always been really, since I was young, about, I don't know, I don't want to waste my time. So if I feel like if I'm spending time with people who are not right for me or not my fit, or for whatever reason, it doesn't mean anything wrong with them. It just means if it's not enriching my life, then sounds kind of harsh, but I just don't really see the point. And then if I feel like if it is detracting from my joy and my sense of self-esteem and fulfillment and everything, then I will be quite careful about how I manage that. And if I spend a lot of time with that person, it doesn't mean I won't spend any time with them. It just means maybe less. But I also have a lot of good friends, and they're all important to me. But I've always been a very social person, so I don't just have a very small social circle. I have a fairly big. People say I have big capacity for social things, so I would say I have quite a few friends, but they are all people I really rate as human beings. And because I want to, you are who you hang out with, right? And I want to I want to learn and take on, I want to the people I hang out with are who generally people I want to be like in some capacity, in some way. So that's why I choose to hang out with them.
Sounds good. You should go around with a little form or a digital app, and just filter people out as you meet them.
I know. Tech or not.
Exactly.
It sounds really judgmental, but when you just meet your people and it's just like something clicks. And
I mean, I think it's easy to say that it can sound judgmental, right? But I think I look at it as being intentional, right? It's about being intentional with your time, your energy. We only like you touched on it. We only have so much time on this earth, and it's like, okay, am I going to let the world dictate, or just circumstance dictate what I do with that time, or am I going to actually be intentional as much as possible with whilst having flexibility to define what my life looks like? So I like that. I like that a lot. I align with that. That's good.
And I try and be as intentional as possible. And that's a really good word for it, because that's kind of in every way, that's how I would, not just this kind of topic, but in everything. So.
All right. So have you heard of the love languages test? I don't know if you've done that before.
I have, yeah.
Okay. All right.
What am I?
Do you know? Yeah. What I would say, what are your top two?
I find this hard because I'm a real lover. I just love. I love all of them. I would say words of affirmation, and probably physical affection.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, time would be close behind that. But yeah, those words of affirmation and physical affection, I think, would be my biggest one.
Would you say that you're more logical or more emotional? Again, I know it's a scale, but is there a certain side that you think you are drawn closer to?
By nature, naturally, it's 100% emotional. I am quite an emotional person, and quite gut-led. But as I've got older, and I'm now studying part-time, I am so much more logical than I used to be. And I really value both, head and heart, and following both, and making sure you're kind of engaging both in any big decision. But I am a person that will be kind of led with my heart and go, yeah, I'm do this. And then I ask my friends to challenge me and say, you need to pick this apart, what I'm telling you, because I feel like I'm only looking at it from an emotional point of view, and I need you to road test it for me, because otherwise I'm going to, realize it was a poor decision. So, and then now I'm a lot more of a critical thinker. Like, I challenge things a lot more. If I read something, it's like, okay, well, where did that statistic come from? I don't believe everything. Like, I'm really like, before I take it on, I'm like, is that true? Or do I think, in my view, is that valid, etc. Whereas maybe before I'd read like a headline, or I'd read something, an article or something, and that would be it. I'd be emotionally led by it. And now I kind of engage my brain a bit and think about, so naturally very much emotional, but I've honed, I think, my logical side, because I think it's so important to critically analyze the world.
I like that. I think there's thinking out there that says, look, only play into your strengths and don't focus too much on your weakness. If I can use that language, it's a little bit sort of black and white. But I really like the idea of going, well, actually, if I am so on this side, it's a good idea to put myself in positions where I now have to think logically to try and create some kind of central balance, between the two, which is only going to make you stronger and improve your self-development.
Yeah, and have people around you who might be more strong in that area that you're not, to bring that, view into it. And I know that people appreciate my, contribution. So, but that's a good question. I like it.
Well, I'm going to give you a compliment. I think over the years that I've known you, you've been really true to that. You've said, "Hey, Rix, what do you think about this?" And actually, just tell it to me straight. And then you've actually received things really well from a logical perspective. Well, at least that's how you've come across. I don't know if you've cried in the corner afterwards, but
not from memory.
Not from memory. Okay, that's a good thing. But yeah, that whole thing of actually, can I take feedback, criticism, correction, or whatever term you want to put on it, and what am I going to do with that? And I think the key is asking for it, as opposed to someone just coming in and telling you their opinion. That's like usually not very welcome, regardless of how close you are. But generally, if you're asking, so hats off to you for consistently doing that over the years that I've known you.
Thank you.
It's inspiring. It's good.
Thank you.
All right. So in life, I think we know the answer based on the theme so far. But do you make things happen in life, or are you a go with the flow sort of person?
100% I make things happen. Actually, kind of a funny story about that. I was talking to my psychologist recently, and I'd recently learned that I did a strengths test at work, and I think like number 2 of 5. There were 5 top strengths. The others aren't rushing to my brain, but
is this the Strengths Finders?
Yeah, the Gallup Strengths Finder.
Yes,
I've never
brilliant.
done. I meant to do it years ago. I kind of paid for it for myself and just never did it. And then work do it for us every year, and it's really cool because you see how they've changed and how you're growing or developing or changing which is really awesome. Anyway, so I did mine, and I think number 2 or up there was activator. So and that means sometimes you get impatient, like in a work context. Sometimes I get impatient because I want things to just happen. And I might rush ahead before it's ready, but it's really good because some people aren't like that. So you need that person to come in. So, and I just, things kind of crystallized for me a bit. And because of my personal life, I was like, yes, but sometimes, like I was reading recently about force versus flow, and when things are just flowing and when things that you're forcing. And I was thinking there are some things in my life that I'm really forcing, and they're not just flowing, and I need to just give them up for a second and just take a break and just let things. So it was all around the time I'd learned that I was an activator, and I was like crying to my psychologist thing. I talked about once a month, and I was like, I don't want to be an activator anymore. Like, I just want to just sit and wait and just not do anything, because I've been activating for years and I'm exhausted and it's tiring, and sometimes it really works out, but often, might not, or, I absolutely love that I'm this way because I think it's made things happen for me in my life, but it's hard. And sometimes you get knocked back. And so, she said, like, I think I said, I'm just going to turn it off. Like, I just want to turn off the activator in me and just take a break from activating. And she was like, what if we look at it like a dial? And you turn it up and you turn it down at certain times for certain things, which is why we pay them the big bucks, because I was just like, why didn't I think of that? Of course. So now I'm trying to think when I turn it up and when I turn it down. And, but yeah, I hate indecision. I hate living in limbo. I hate not knowing the outcome of something. I've done it. I've sat with things because that's what has to happen at the time, and I'm aware of it. Like, it doesn't mean I always rush. I have learned to take pause and not rush ahead before a decision is ready. But other times I have just kind of gone, I'm going to do this, because I would always rather do it and it maybe not work out than not do it at all. Yeah. The not doing and the not living and the not taking the risks, like, that terrifies me more than the doing stuff. So yeah, definitely someone that just, but then that's the thing, I have to learn how to, instead of forcing it, when to just let go. So it's been something that's been quite pertinent in my life at the moment, of what I'm pushing and what I'm taking a break from.
Wow, there's a lot there. Again, can resonate with a lot.
It's very linked to kind of what we're talking about. So I'm glad you asked.
No, I love it. I think I really like the idea of the dial. That's brilliant. Because then you're not at 10. You're not at 10 or 0. You can sort of catch yourself. And I think one of the things we can often struggle with is, if you are an activator, say you are someone who makes things happen, and you're forced to wait. Let's say you're in that limbo state because, life is life, and there's other people on the planet, unfortunately, that sort of bring in some of that, or work or projects or whatever. And it's kind of not allowing yourself to build that resentment or that bitterness in you as you're waiting, because you just want to get things done. You want to move forward. So yeah, there's a lot there that I think makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And everyone who knows me would say I'm 100%. Oh, and I'm just like, I'm all in. I jump head first into things. And that's good also, but it's like sometimes, it's not ready to jump into, and that's just my personality. I'm just like 110%. Sure. So that's also, I've had to, it's not a bad thing, but it's linked to just the dial, and not always doesn't have to be 0 or hero. It can sometimes just be somewhere in the middle, which I find the middle hard. I find the grey middle very hard to navigate.
The grey. I think I have a copy of the book here somewhere on my shelf, but no, not to hand. But I remember from doing Strength Finders. So if you're an activator, let's go with that. You're an activator. It also tells you if you're a mature activator, this is what it can look like. And then if you're I don't know what the term is. I mean, immature comes to mind because the opposite of mature, but let's use a dial to use another word. That's not so intense. But like if you if you don't develop that, let's say you haven't developed your activator strength, let's
Yeah.
say, it tells you what are the dangers of that, what that could look like. And I found that really helpful with the Strength Finders course. In fact, if you're listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube, we'll put a link in the description to Strength Finders. I think it costs around UK money is like £20 to do the test, but it's really worth it. It really is. It's really opened my eyes to some
I
of their
agree.
strengths and personality. And then the second point I wanted to make was I was having a discussion with someone, a couple of people recently, and love languages, Strength Finders, Myers Briggs, all of these tests, they were saying that it's a bit like a horoscope. You read what you want to read and then you label yourself. Whereas I would say, if you take it, if you start wearing those labels, then maybe there's a case to be made for that. But actually, they're just indicators of where you kind of sit and allow you to kind of reflect and say, yeah, I identify that within myself. And then using your activation strength or your going courage mindset, it's about kind of creating balance in those areas and trying to understand how you operate, how you function, so that you can intentionally make some changes to develop. Yeah, that's what I think about.
I like that.
Not that you asked, but I'm just
No, it's cool. I like that. It's the whole like not being too tied to it, and again not being 100 or nothing, and just going, okay, cool, I'm taking that on board. I'll note that, but it doesn't mean it needs to be my identity every step of the way. So that's a really cool point. I like it.
Maybe that's what we name this podcast: the courage to use a dial instead of a switch.
The courage dial.
The courage dial.
Encourage gently.
Gently, yeah. All right. What's changing gear a little bit? What's a good compliment that you remember that's been said about you? And we found out that words of affirmation are very important to you. So this will be an interesting answer.
On the weekend, this is not my favorite, but it was just very current, and it just was so sweet. My niece said that I'm like Miss Honey from Matilda. If you've seen Matilda, she's the nice teacher. Oh gosh, you're gonna have to go watch it. Watch it for your kids. It's such a good
I'm gonna
film.
have to watch it. Yeah. All right.
Anyway, Miss Honey's a great character, and she's just warm and fun. Anyway, I was touched by that. But the one that came to mind immediately was one of my friends. She said, I think we were talking about one of my favorite authors, Sally Rooney, who writes novels, and she said something like, Sally Rooney couldn't write you as a character. The readers wouldn't even buy it. How brave you are.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh, that's so nice. And linked to this, encourage, calling me brave, and say, the way my friend's very poetic, just the way she was like, people wouldn't even buy you as a character. And so I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And that has stayed with me. Yeah. And then she kind of sent me some flowers one day months later, and wrote in the card something like, Sally Rooney hasn't got anything on you, type of thing. So it was, that was a beautiful one.
What would you say that people misunderstand about you?
Oh, that's interesting. I would say, I was thinking today, and I think everyone feels a bit like this. We're always generally, most of us are like, got a lot on that people don't always see and are juggling. And I think sometimes I was thinking how when someone's upset with me, or I feel like someone might be upset with me, I always think they just don't know that I'm doing the absolute best I can. Like, I couldn't be doing anything more than I'm currently doing. Like, this is my best. I'm trying so hard all the time. And so it really hits me if I feel like I'm not if I'm not performing in any area of my life. And I think people who know me well in my personal life, sorry, I don't know if that's linked. I might have gone around in circles, but anyway, people who know me in my personal life would probably know that I'm quite sensitive. Like I take things to heart quite easily, and like I can take, especially if I ask for it, and we've had conversations as friends, and I seek feedback at work that is negative, so I can develop, and like I can take negative feedback, but I think it has to be in a way that is, I guess, gentle, because I'm quite sensitive, but I think I give off that I'm quite confident and tough, maybe in some ways, and I can hold my ground, and I can hold my own, and I'm a confident person, and I'm strong. But I think, people don't realize that beneath the exterior, I'm actually very sensitive and take things to heart, and really hard on myself. And people might not realize that. So, I think that, they'd misunderstand the kind of tough exterior that I sometimes maybe put out to be,
That's really interesting, because, your friend there mentioned Sally Rooney not being able to, create a character that embodies you because you're just too brave. And, I'm really interested, as you can tell, in the exploration of what that even looks like. What is courage, And so you just assume that the brave person is super strong, super thick, super hot, thick-skinned, super, just super. And so they're kind of impenetrable in terms of like, hurting them and things like that. And then what I'm finding on my journey towards courage is it's usually not like that at all. It's more of a decision that you make. Again, intentionality there of, keep moving forward, keep making choices that you think are noble, and doing your best in that. And then people forget that you're human under all of that as well. And things do hurt, and things are tough, and maybe you do want to cry sometimes, but you hold it in because you've got to show up for your kids or show up for work or whatever it is. That's a really good point. I think it's something that it doesn't get talked about. I mean, it does get talked about, but probably not in the context of bravery.
Yeah, it's a good link. And I think because I'm brave, and I do think I'm brave. Like, I'm not trying to sound like I have a big head, but I've worked really hard at being brave. It's not just come naturally. But people, I would say, often think I'm more okay than I am, or I'm doing better than I am because of that, how I appear, or that bravery, or whatever. It's like they think it's easy to be brave, or easy to do. Like they might think, oh, I couldn't do that. She's so brave. But they don't realize that I'm just as scared as they would be, or I'm finding it just as hard as they would, but I'm still doing it. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying I think that's what I found hard growing up and as an adult, is that, people generally are like, oh yeah, she's fine. Like, she's good. She's all good. And so I would kind of be like, I'm not though, but maybe I didn't know how to say that or express that or be vulnerable. I'm not sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Especially if you're a make it happen kind of person, right? It's a little bit harder to allow other people to make things happen for you.
Yeah. And you want people to, I guess maybe sometimes you're trying to convince yourself you did the right thing, and you want to convince other people. So you're like, it's not I'm 100% believe in authenticity, and I'm not ever, I don't try and pretend everything's fine. I think it's just that I'm I get on with it type person for the most part, and don't want to stay stuck in the mud or mope. So I kind of just keep going, but it doesn't always mean I feel confident in that, or that I'm feeling brave.
It reminds me of a story, actually, if I can share it. years ago, I was sort of at the height of being in sort of battling anxiety. And I remember being on a train station. I think it was London Bridge. I was going to Greenwich, right? And and there was a guy there. Oh no! So I was having a little bit of a panic attack. If I'm honest, it was really intense, and I had to sit down on the steps. You know, when people go up and down the steps, I just had to sit down in the corner, try and stay out of the way with this big rucksack on, trying to get to uni. And I was just, it's like the world just blurred out, and it was like I was like really, I was like having a panic attack. Managed to kind of get through it with some breathing techniques and stuff that I learned from seeing a counselor and stuff. And then as I came down the stairs, there's a guy there, like he's probably in his 50s, and he's just bawling his eyes out. And so I'm going through probably a really tough thing for me. But in the moment, I'm like, what's going on with this guy? So I just went, you're right. And he lost his son. I think he's lost, I can't remember exactly all the details, but I think he died. And he was kind of sort of wandering from here to there, and he was trying to get back to where he was trying to get to, and he couldn't work out what train to go on and all that kind of stuff. And so I helped him out. And I just remember, I can't remember what he said to me. There was a compliment involved. There's some love exchanged, and off he went. And in the context of what we're talking about, I was able to show up for him, and he was like, "Oh, that guy, what a brave guy, what a great guy. He's got it all together," all this kind of stuff. But what he didn't know was I was completely in a place where I was just gone. And so that kind of ties into what you're saying. Like there's a sensitivity, there's a real, like, I'm human, I'm hurting, but I still make the decision to try and help. I'm not saying I do this all the time, but in that particular scenario, I connected with someone and was able to display some kind of support. And then he has maybe an opinion of me. I don't even know if he remembers now, but like he must have had an opinion. Oh, here's a guy who kind of helped me out. And the two are so far apart, but they kind of overlap. And I think that's the beauty of love and life, isn't it? To allow those things to coexist.
It's funny how he would have seen you in a certain way that you definitely didn't see yourself in that moment, which I think we can really tap into, because I think it's really important sometimes to think, well, how do people in my life see me? That's definitely not how I see myself right now, but I need that encouragement. And how you were able to step out of your own cloudiness to kind of help someone and be strong in that moment for him, maybe more than you would have felt you could be for yourself. Do you know what I mean? You were able to, it's really cool.
It is, and to take it off ourselves and actually see it from other perspectives. Sometimes you must have had this moment in life where you're with a friend, you're really going through some tough times, so you're babbling on about your issues and everything. They're a great friend to you, they're supportive, they acknowledge you, they're listening and all the rest of it. A couple of weeks later, you find out actually they were going through a really tough time as well. And then you go, oh wow, but they showed up for me. And it kind of gives you even more of a respect for them and go, wow. And then you sit and wallow in your own guilt because you weren't a good friend to them in that moment. But hey, life is life. There you go.
I love it. My friends are now like, I think COVID was really hard because we were all struggling a lot. And Melbourne, we had long lockdowns and people were living alone, and it was really hard. And so it was really hard to show up for each other because we had so little resilience. Like our resilience was completely depleted. And I feel like from that, a few of my really close inner circle, we learned how to say, do you have capacity? Do you have space? Can you, like, I'm just having a really shitty day. Can we talk? And my sister does it, and my sister did it recently, and I was having the worst day. And usually I would always drop everything to be there for my sister. But I was like, I'm so sorry. I can't. I'm having such a bad day. And I said, I'm just going to go to bed and I'll call you when I wake up. And I think it's so nice when you can really be honest and say when you just can't carry anything else than what you're already carrying. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do when you love and care for someone. But then the next day I had a good sleep. All I needed was sleep. And then I woke up and we talked, and, she understood and she was okay. And that's what's good about having a few different people in your life that you can call on, and it's not just one, or so yeah, I think that's what I've kind of noticed recently is this kind of, and generally like it would be that's the only time I've ever said no to someone in the last year, I would say. But I knew I had to do that for me in that moment, and she respected and understood that, so that's good. I'm lucky to have her in that way.
I have a cousin who's quite similar as well, and I can identify with it as well. And so we have this thing at the moment where we say you need to take the cape off because we're trying to be superheroes to everyone around us, but sometimes you have to take the cape off and allow yourself to give yourself that love for yourself so that you can show up for other people. Because if you're not showing up for yourself, you know, it's that whole going back to the air stewardess vibe, you know, put your mask on before you help the other person with the mask. And sometimes I think we forget to do that across cultures, across the world. Go encourage. It's a verb. Go do something. So do you have a daily routine or a rhythm about your life that you kind of have that helps you stay productive, helps you stay intentional?
Okay, so generally I like to, because I have a very full life. Like I work full time. I said I study already. So that already means, you know, I don't have I'm not swimming in spare time. And then I have friends, family. So I do like to, sometimes it goes out the window. Like at the moment I'm just finished. I'm on a uni break of only a few weeks because I'm all year round. I study all year round because I do 3 trimesters instead of 2 semesters. So I'm in summer, you know.
You
I don't
overachiever,
have the
you.
summer break. Well, it's just easier. It's a way of getting it done quicker. But yeah,
Yeah,
so that's me to a T. Like I just fill my life sometimes and then regret it. But anyway, so it's summer here at the moment, and I've really struggled with the routine because I would just rather be out in the sun or with my friends or doing things in summer. So, and I went to the UK for Christmas, and so the routine's gone out the window. But usually I would on Sunday plan my week, plan everything, when I'm doing my exercise, when I'm doing my uni stuff, what I'm doing for uni, obviously when I'm working, even started to plan meals and snacks. And just like I've heard of people creating systems instead of routines. So then it's just, you know, we know how this works. And so on Sunday, I'll do a big batch cook for the freezer and the fridge and just sort everything out, you know, make all my breakfast, do everything so that I can just because I think that's what I really struggled with last year is I wasn't eating well and I wasn't looking after my body, which then affects everything. So I feel like I'm struggling with different things now, but I've finally got to a good place with like making sure at least I'm eating well when I'm really busy. And then, I have my weekly routine, and then I kind of do that. And I even write down rest or chill or see a friend, because then I know I'm working towards that. So I do. I'm a routine person to a point, I think, but I also quite like change. I don't like too much routine. I think it keeps us agile and flexible to not have too much routine.
Sure.
So it depends if you caught me on a good week or a bad week, but I definitely feel a lot better about everything when I kind of have set it all out and I know what I need to do, and I know when I get to give myself permission to completely relax, because if I don't feel like I've earned the rest, I'm going to be thinking about what I should be doing instead. So I definitely try and book that rest time in, and then I have to be intentional about booking that time for myself, because sometimes it'll be like the only time I have by myself is when I'm studying, but that's not fair on me, or that's not how it's meant to be. I should have time that is just completely relaxing, but it feels sometimes like, oh, I haven't seen that friend, or I need to call that person, and then I've had to go, no, you really need to just. So that's what I'm learning to prioritize, that when I do have those pockets of time, that sometimes they are just for me, instead of feeling like I should be doing something else with them, more social.
What does courage mean to Micaela?
I I mean, it depends what day, week, year it is. But I think some days, I think for a lot of people, it's getting up in the morning. It's getting out of bed. If we're being really honest about sometimes, for whatever reason, life is just really hard and what's waiting for you is just like... So I want to call out all the people, the amazing people that get up and take on the day, even though it can, it can be hard. For me, I think it's about choosing sometimes choosing the harder road. Like if you've got two options and one is going to be hard, not for the sake of it. I don't believe in choosing, difficulty for the sake of it. Like that's not fair. But yeah, I think sometimes, and then it's being really afraid of something and doing it anyway. And I think I get a real thrill off doing hard things. And I don't know why. And it's not risk-taking stuff. Sometimes I'm just like, well, I don't want to do that. And as I've got older and what I want has changed, I've kind of like moved away from the person I once was that wanted this thing. And so it's always with something in mind. But I think, I think it's taking the road less traveled and living really, like I said it before, following your gut. Because I think I have a very strong intuition, which is honed by learning from when you don't listen to it and then when you do.
Yeah, sure.
And so I've done a lot of both.
I like that because you're saying you're honing it based on what has worked or hasn't worked in the past. So you're in this constant state of learning, and it's not that just because you're intuitive and you have that incredible gift that some people have and some people don't, right? It is from your experiences, what you've read, learned from other people, etc.
Like people have said to me, I wish I had, your this or that. And I'm like, you do. You have it. You're just not listening to it. And it takes years of understanding the signs of when you're not listening to it and when you are. And I realized recently I'm not seeking happiness and even pleasure, like pleasure in all its forms, great, but it's not. Happiness and pleasure are kind of fleeting in some ways. What I'm seeking is peace. And then the byproduct is pleasure and happiness. Because peace is when I know that I am living according to my values, when everything is as it should be. And it took me a long time to realize that. And then what peace is changes and evolves so I think it just frustrates me when people feel like they're not empowered or they don't think they can do it. And it's from doing both that you learn.
Yeah, that's good. So you said your name was Hebrew, right? There's a name in Hebrew. So shalom. Shalom means peace. And so early traditions would refer to God as Jehovah Shalom, which is the God of peace. Although I probably haven't pronounced it, in its truest form. But the idea, based on what you're saying there, is shalom means peace. So a lot of people would think, oh, that means, I sit in silence or do meditation or whatever, prayer, etc. But actually shalom, from my understanding, and I'm no theological expert in this, but it actually means peace in divine order. So it's interesting that you say that, because the idea is there is peace when there's order. And then when there's order, you can rest in it, and therefore you don't have to, activate things, be overachieving, because there is order. And if there's order, then the fruits of order are joy, pleasure, happiness, all of those things. So it's really interesting because people chase, and I'm one of them. Like, I'm not trying to say I've got it all worked out, but we can often chase the what's the word I'm looking for, the fruits, but not actually be willing to plant the tree, to bring out those things. So it's really interesting that you make those points, because actually, that's something I was only looking into that recently, and it kind of ties in beautifully with what you're saying there. Shalom. Shalom, Micaela. Yeah.
Good point. I like the connection between order and you can take a rest.
And that's quite deep, right? But if we bring it just to a surface level thing, like you cooking on a Sunday, let's say, for the rest of the week, it's because you're creating order in your life. And if you don't create that order, okay, I know you said about the dishes, but you could probably get over that, right? But it's the actual, what am I going to eat today? And then that plays into your mind, and you're in limbo state, and then you're making poor decisions based on what you have to do in terms of projects because you're not eating right. You don't have many takeaways there. We have so many takeaways here, such a temptation. And then you eat rubbish, and then you're on a food high, and then you're on a food dip. And it kind of just plays into everything. So it's kind of having structure, having routine, having order. And I totally appreciate, it's not, this kind of, like you said, it's hard to live when you're just in this kind of state of everything's worked out. But if you work everything out and then have that flexibility to say, well, things change, I can move a few things around here or there. You're getting to a maturer, well, I use that word, but maturer state, isn't it? And I guess that's the difference of being an adult and being a child, where hopefully your parents are the ones who create the order, so you don't have to,
Yeah, I think having that grace for yourself when you don't, we set out to have an amazing week, and it's like, right, this is going to be great, and then obviously it's not always going to go like that. And like I said, things aren't. I've managed the food better, but exercise recently, because I've been so stretched and I've had to cram, haven't exercised, and know that affects me so much. So I'm like, okay, all right, I've got the food down. I just need to get the exercise routine down. And I find that is linked to routine, because it's so much easier if you take out the decision from it and just like, on this day at this time, I go and do this. Whereas because I work in the city 2 hours away, and I'm there pretty much every week, and that's exhausting doing the drive and stuff. So it's just the current situation makes it hard, and so I'm kind of trying to have grace for myself for where I am currently, because it won't always be like this. So we do our best.
What are you proud of? Like, what are the things that you've done that you've had to step out of your comfort zone to do?
I think I've moved countries twice, which has been hard. But I wanted to do them for my own reasons. So sure. I don't know if it was courage. I think I love change, and I love, so it was exciting for the most part. I think something really hard that I did, and I'm really glad I did it, is I went traveling around South America on my own for a few months.
Wow.
In my late 20s. And that was hard.
On your own, like what made you want to do that, if you don't mind me asking?
I wanted to go, and no one could come with me. Like,
okay.
That's it. And like I said before, if there's the option of, I'd rather do it. I'd always rather do it than not do it. And so I was in a relationship, and they couldn't come with me, but I was still like, well, I'm still going. So, and I think I called their bluff on it because I didn't think I would, but I did. Like, I just was like, I really want to do it. A lot of people travel alone, but I think that was me really leaving a very safe, comfortable space. I quit my job. I really was like, I really want to make some changes in my life, and this is how I feel. This is the first step to doing that. And that was when I wanted to leave London, because I had been there for maybe 8 or 9 years, but I knew I didn't want to be there forever. And I was getting a bit restless. And so this was my way of changing things up and just going on a trip by myself. Had to learn a bit of Spanish to get by. I wasn't great, but I learned enough to get by. And yeah, it was really sometimes it was really lonely. It was hard. It was sometimes I felt scared being a solo female traveler, but I'm so glad I did it because when was it? Only like 2 years later, I ended up moving to Melbourne on my own when I was meant to come. I was meant to come with my then partner, and that was all everything went topsy-turvy right at the last minute. And I honestly don't know if I could have done the Melbourne thing if I hadn't done that South America trip. I feel like that South America trip was a bit of I don't know what the word is, but like it was, I can't think of the word, but it was setting me up for success because it was so, at times, it was an amazing trip. And now I've been to all these places that I wouldn't have got to go to if I hadn't done it. But it was also just it was pushed me right out of my comfort zone. And I think I learned how to be, because I'd spent years traveling with my partner and he was really good at traveling. And I guess I was always kind of under his wing and I was always okay. And then it was my turn to fly and I just sorted it all out and like looked after myself. And then all of a sudden, unexpectedly, I was moving to another country by myself. And so I don't think if I'd had that, it was like a warm up, even though South America is non-English speaking and I was coming to, Australia, it's very different, but I just felt like it set me up. And I don't know if you could stuck with it.
If you could do that, right? If you could do, that's like a bit of a, baptism of fire, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
it was awesome. And I made friends and I had a beautiful time. And I went to, because I had planned some travel before I came from London to Melbourne. And then one of those trips was to go back to see my family in New Zealand. And obviously coming alone meant the whole plan was like, well, I could change the plan if I wanted. Like, I don't have to go to Melbourne now if I don't want to, even though I did want to go to Melbourne. But it was like, I could just go back to New Zealand where all my family are and it would be a safer option. And nothing against New Zealand. I just, I had kind of always thought I wanted to live in Melbourne. And so my mum said, oh, you don't, you could just stay here. It's okay. You don't have to go to Melbourne. And it was a blank slate, which was terrifying of like, I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's going to happen. Like I just completely, and it was so hard, but it was still like, no, I still want to do this. Like I said, I was going to do this and I can be a bit stubborn. And sometimes I feel like I have something to prove to myself, whereas I was like, I'm doing what I said I'd do. So yeah,
I think it's integrity as well, right? It's your self-integrity, isn't it? To do what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I hope you gave yourself at least a high five for like self-five.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, then COVID happened. I got to Melbourne in late February of 2020, and then by early March we were in lockdown. So that's a whole other thing. But
that's a whole other. Well, so would you say your South America trip was 2018? Is that right?
Yeah, I left end of 2017, and it was early 2018, and then moved to Melbourne in early 2020.
Wow. Had you been to South America before? Like you had an idea of what you were getting yourself into, or you were just like, right, let's go?
I didn't. I mean, I'd spoken to people, but I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But yeah, I think I just thought this is my chance to do it. And I don't know if I'm going to get another chance. And I'd also been hustling for like 10 years and working full time, had never had more than a few weeks off at a time, which, is great. Like I was lucky I did travel in that time and everything. I wasn't hard done by, but I just had never really switched off and taken some time for myself because I was just trying to work on my career and couldn't afford to. And I got to a point that I could be lavishly selfish and do this thing and not be held back by someone not being able to come. It was like, well, that's fine. I'll just go
for it. Wow. Let me drill down into the mindset there, just hoping that it helps someone out there who's listening. You've decided to go to South America. Actually, it kind of works with your decision to go to Melbourne as well, and probably your decision to come from that side of the world to London in the first place, right?
Yeah, I feel like they're all linked.
Right. And so what is it in you? Like you've touched on, you said you're going to do it, you're going to do it, right? So you're determined in that way, which is great. What if someone's listening, they've got a dream, it might not be travel, but let's say it is, what was the mindset that took you from thinking about doing this and then actually booking the flights or creating an itinerary or whatever to go, I'm actually going to do this? Like, what's the thing that clicked for you?
There's something in, thinking outside the box of your own life and imagining what you could do. And so now my whole thing is like, after my degree, what could I do if I wanted? Like, I could buy a van and drive around Australia, or I could do random things that I might want to do or might not want to do when I get there, when I eventually arrive to this point. But I think there's something really good at giving yourself permission and taking yourself out of the current context of your life if you need to think about what you could do. And I feel like there's something in a lot of people like take on an identity as a child, and then they end up carrying that for their life. Yeah. Like I was never sporty. I hated moving my body when I was younger. I was like, just hated it. And then one day I was like, no, I want to be a runner. I just want to be a person that runs. And no one sees me like that, and I don't see myself like that. But all I need to do to be a runner is to put on the clothes and put on the shoes and like go running. That's literally all I need to do. Yeah. And I really have been like, I think it's so important to do that for yourself, because otherwise you just kind of go, like maybe you would have done it and gone, I don't travel at one point, I don't travel, or I don't do this because I struggle with that because of anxiety. And then that kind of stays like that. Whereas if you go, but what if I didn't? Or what if no one else knows that about me, says no one else knows that, I can just pretend I don't and then put on this whole new identity. And I think there's something really empowering in that, because we can all do things like that that are really hard for us, or not who we thought we were. Yeah. And I don't know where the travel thing came from, but I think I was tired and I was restless and I wanted something different. I didn't realize how it was linked to the rest of my life. I didn't realize how different I wanted it, but I knew there was something stirring and I didn't want to ignore it. And I think it was, it was choosing to listen to that and just doing the definitive action toward it.
Yeah. I like that. I like the breakdown as well. I think it's really on point. My daughter, who you've met, she had a really horrible accident a couple of years ago, and it was near fatal. So it was quite a big deal. And there was surgery involved, there was rehabilitation, etc., etc. But the reason I bring it up is in school, in primary school, it was her last year, and it became part of her identity. So she couldn't use it. She was casted up for a while. And then when she was out of the cast, there was only particular movements she can do, et cetera, et cetera. And the link I'm making to what you said there is it became part of how everyone saw her, But when she started high school, and now this is fast forwarding, a fair while after the accident, she'd ask me questions, Dad, look, should I tell them? Like, what about if PE is going to be an issue, et cetera, et cetera? And I said, what do you want to do? Like, I had my thoughts. And being a protective dad, I was like, well, we should let the teachers know, and we should let the PE people know. And But then, it took a moment to say, well, what do you want to do? Like, what do you think? And she said, I'd prefer not to tell anyone about the accident. I was like, okay. So she didn't. And she started school. And it just wasn't part of her identity. And so I think, a few months on now, she has told her PE teacher there are certain things that she struggles with, but she'd like to be pushed in, which is great. And she's got her close couple of friends who know about what happened, but everyone else just treats her like, good old, everything's all good, that kind of thing. So I think the reason I thought about that is the mindset of going, if you want to be a runner, let's say, get the shoes on, get the clothes on, and go for it. Don't have to identify yourself with the thing that holds you back, and I think that's powerful on a root level.
It's a perfect example, your daughter, of but that's why I love a fresh start. And I think that's why I love fresh starts myself, because I don't have to wear that former identity that maybe I did before. And like, even a silly example, but I had a friend who was like, I knew her in a job, and then she said, before this job, I never wore dresses. And then it was such a big thing to be that girl who always wore trousers to then wear dresses. Whereas when she had started a new job, she was like, I'm going to wear dresses now. And no one knows that I didn't used to wear dresses. And it's such a small thing, but it's like, what do we want to shed and what do we want to put on as our identity? And we don't need to move countries or cities or jobs or schools. We can just decide what we want to be one day. And I think there's a lot of power in that, and owning it and just being like, this is me. And if any, no one knows any different. Or some people are so, generally the world's so self-absorbed, they're not going to really always notice. Like, it's, it's your life. So, yeah.
I like that. And I think something that I, come across and I tell myself often as well is nobody really cares, as much as you do. Nobody really cares, right? Like starting a podcast. Cares. Yeah, exactly, right. And starting this podcast, like I've been in the world of sort of photography and videography and things like that. So I'm always on the other side of the camera. But being on this side of the camera, suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do, et cetera, et cetera. And then a podcast, like how many podcasts are there out there, right? There's loads. But then when I started to think about, and this is again, tying in with what you're saying, what is it that I'm determined to do, and what do I want to do? I want to explore courage. I think courage is such a fascinating virtue, such a fascinating part of our human experience. And regardless if anyone listens, watches, or cares, I'm getting so much out of it. I'm really enjoying it. So it kind of, it's shedding that fear, or shedding that, that thought process that stops you doing something that you really want to do, and then just doing it, going to South America, starting, having that fresh start. I know I'm talking a lot here. Al Pacino, Al Pacino, great actor. He said something along the lines of, he just starts everything on a blank slate. He doesn't bring things into stuff. He just starts everything on when I say everything, I think projects that he works on, movies and stuff like that. And it allows him to just start from fresh and then build up the character or build up whatever he's playing. And that really stuck with me. I think I really resonate with, brand new things as opposed to rehashing stuff. Unless it works, then fair enough. It becomes part of the rhythm. But yeah, that's good.
It's a good way to live.
In the dating world, what kind of advice would you give to people based on experience in order for them to go out there with courage?
Oh, man. It's a minefield out there. I would say to go out and courage, know who you are, know what you're looking for, take regular breaks, do what you need to do to keep at it, because it takes a lot of courage. It's hard. It's really hard. I find it hard. And maybe that's because I don't like the limbo. I don't like, I just kind of want to be there at the end point. And it's like constantly being under a job interview, but for your personality and everything. It's tricky. So I would say have good people around you all the time to keep your spirits high and uplifted, and remind you why you're loved when you don't maybe have a significant other to remind you of that. And then so you're built up to go out into the world and try and meet that person. But yeah, it's interesting because I have a number of friends, I've got friends who are single, friends who are married, friends dating, all the range, and then I've seen them in different stages of that, and they've seen me, and I think it's definitely easier for some people to just withdraw, stay home, do hang out with your friends, but I try and be intentional about dating, which comes in waves of enthusiasm versus less, but because I know that's what I want. But sometimes it's just like, can I just not have to think about it for a while? So, yeah.
I really like what you said at the beginning there as well, like knowing what you want. I think that's good. That's a really, because people jump into stuff, I think, from couples that I've spoken to, single people, etc. They jump into things thinking it has to look like something. It has to look like this movie, or it has to look like people's romanticized version of what a relationship looks like, and therefore they jump in without knowing who they are and what they want. And I think those two things are really important, and constantly like checking in with yourself as well. I haven't dated for a while, so I don't know, that's what that's the question. But I guess from just talking to people, it's such a big part of relationships generally, and then romantic relationships, really knowing who you are, and not expecting the other person to define that for you as well.
Yeah, it's true. It's tricky. And I think I used to probably look at like what someone represented, or like their life that they were offering, and I'd kind of go, oh, that, I want to be a part of that, their story, but maybe look past the person. So I'm working on looking at, that's why I said know what you want, because I guess I've started to figure out what that is.
Can I ask you, you mentioned your psychologist earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Recommend it?
Oh, 100%. Like everyone needs to go. And if the number of people in my life had gone, I wouldn't have had to go for so long.
Ooh,
so
that's an interesting thought.
We all need to take on the load. But yeah, it's so good. It's like going to the doctor. It's just for me. It's just and it's, I'm lucky that I can afford it, that I live in a country that subsidizes it. There's a lot of things, but I think it's the best investment I've ever made in my whole life, because it's complete. I've done it at certain points and stages in my life, but it's changed my relationships and changed the way, and it comes into everything, like work, relationships, friendships, family, like your life is just a whole lot of relationships. It's literally, we just live in this web of relationships and people interaction, and that comes out in so many ways. And I see it at work. It's so interesting, because now that I'm studying psychology, I definitely notice things and observe, and I hate to say it, but I do psychoanalyze. But yeah, I would highly recommend it, and I think it completely changed my life, and I'd be a very different person if I hadn't done it at key stages in my life.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. And yeah, same experience, different stages of life, looking at different aspects of life as well. And I think it's really important, and I feel passionate about it, especially when talking to other men, because I think it's such a stigma, in men's mental health, that I can't go and see a psychologist because I need to be strong, and that's a weak thing to do, etc., etc. But actually, once you take that courageous step to cross over the line, you'll find there's not that much courage involved. Actually, it's just making the decision and then going, then coming out like someone's put a band-aid on your scratch for that week, and then you'll go back and figure out what's wrong with your leg, and then what's wrong with your shoulder, etc. Metaphorically speaking, because I know it's of the mind. But no, I really appreciate you saying that. I think it's a good thing to endorse.
Well, I want to be a psychologist, so I need to get people. It's my future business. maybe.
Maybe. So if people are listening to this 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line or wherever we'll put a link in the description, and then you can go onto Micaela's website and see if she can help you with whatever you're going through. How about that? All right. So if we could sum up everything we've talked about today, he says with a deep breath, what would
is that you or me?
No, I think I'm going to put it on you. You're my guest. I'll help you. But what would you want anyone listening today to walk away with based on our conversation today? Little piece of advice.
I think, I don't know, it might sound patronizing to some people, or some people saying it's not that easy, but I think there's something in just deciding to be brave about whatever that is for you in that day. And it could be very small if that's, small to someone else, but big for you. I think do that. And also kind of linked, but I guess if something's not working for you as you wanted or as you hoped, and it could be anything in life or in work or something, but just do something different, try something different, turn it up, change it up, because I just think change is so important, and it keeps us, like I said before, it keeps us agile. And I think, try something different and try and get a different outcome if you've been trying something, because that's something I've been really practicing in my life at the moment. I've been going, like I said, the force versus the flow, and if something's not flowing, then maybe you're forcing it. And so I'm actively trying to change things up. If I feel like there's a pattern, then I'm not getting the desired outcome. And just be just put on that hat of the person you want to be today, or put on the running shoes, or do if you just thought, I've always wanted to do that, but I'm not that kind of person, or I've never done that before, or whatever, just figure out what the obstacles are and try and be that person if that's who you want to be, with a project or a hobby or a trip or a relationship. I think there's real power in that.
It's really good. Thank you. It's been so interesting talking to you today, and I'm really happy that we managed to have this podcast, because I know we tried to get this done in person when you were in the UK, and I got really sick, so I was so gutted about that. But we have traveled across the world via technology, and able to gain some of your insight and courage. So thank you for your time today.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been really fun to chat. Thanks.
I just want to also shout out that on the Go Encourage blog, you have written an article many, many years ago, and it was about parenting. And I wanted to get your insight on parenting without you having any children. And I thought you brought a really interesting perspective. So if you're listening, the blog is available at goencourage.com. So you can go and have a look at that and see what Micaela had to say many, many years ago. And maybe you'll consider doing an update many years on. We'll see. Cool. All right. So once again, thank you so much. If people want to connect with you online, are they able to do so? Where's the best place they can get in touch with you?
At Micaela Rose on Instagram. You can follow.
Brilliant.
That's all I have at the moment.
Brilliant. We'll stick a link in. And this is a long goodbye, but I'm saying thank you, and I'm really, really grateful that you came on the Go Encourage podcast today.
Thanks, Rix. It was really fun.
Brilliant. All right. Until next time. See you later. Really hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, do let us know in the comments, or you can connect with us via our social media channels, where the links are available on www.goencourage.com. If you haven't already, you can now get a copy of the Courage Journal that we've put together to help you build courage on a day-to-day basis. We have a paperback version and a hardback version as well. Links are on the website. You can purchase these in the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, and all across Europe. So go and have a look at that. I think it's going to be a really valuable resource. All right, so until the next time, whatever you're doing, keep moving forward and go in courage.